What did I do to get here?
Welcome to Life in Focus with Bill Pine. I'm Bill Pine, and today we're going to talk about what does it mean, and what does it truly mean when you say that the fear of God.
Hello. How's everybody doing? My name is Jalen Penn.
What's going on? It's your boy Changing Narratives.
What's good? It's Cannon James.
Okay, so let's start our topic off first. Let's try to define what does it mean to be God fearing or fearful of God. What does that truly mean? I mean, what is the definition of it? I know when I was growing up, people told me you got to be humble. I'm looking at them like,
Right.
I ain't being humble. I ain't that weak.
Yeah.
So even the term humble to me was negative, right?
Yeah.
So you start talking about being fearful of something. My first thing was, I'm a man. I mean, I'm a little kid. I'm calling myself a man. And I ain't scared of nothing.
Right.
Right. So be fearful, right? So what does it really mean to be fearful? Does it mean walk around scared? Does it mean a level of respect? What does being fearful of God truly mean? Anybody?
I think both ways. I mean, like, I was scared of my pops. My pops came with a set of guidelines, a set of rules that I had to follow. And if I would have broke them rules, you know what I'm saying? So, and I look at it like God gave us the whole morality of living. We got rules we need to follow, things we need to do. And you know, you can get the worst punishment from him, in my opinion.
Facts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll take a stab at it too. I was kind of like that. The way it was taught in my household, it's like fear. Why would you need to be afraid of this? And fear, that sounds like a human trait.
Right.
You know, like, a weakness or like it's an insecurity. Like, why would God? I didn't understand that. But to your point, I mean, I think, God is our ultimate father. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm learning now. That's what I have learned is like the fear of God is not weakness at all. Actually, it's about reverence and respect. But
Well, you know what? Think of it like this, right? Let's say you're faced with a choice, right? And let's say something happens and you feel like it's morally wrong and you feel like it's against God's principles, but the whole crowd is going along with it.
Right.
Now they're looking at you like you crazy, because if you don't agree, we're going to get you next.
right.
So is your fear of God so great that you're going to stand for him and take the beating from the crowd, or you going to go with the crowd and avoid getting beaten?
Mm.
I mean, does that fit into the scenario about you talking about fear
I
of
feel
God?
like everybody had to, some point in life, go through that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I always say, I always say either you follow God or you gonna follow the culture. The culture, to me, it goes against everything God said.
All right.
You know, like, for example, just going to school getting A's and B's, they made you feel like you was weak if you did that. Oh, you a nerd, you getting A's and B's.
You know
But that's
what?
the culture that said that, you know what I'm saying?
See, I agree with you. You know why? When I used to go to a school called Bowling Junior High. And when I got my report card, I would hide it. No joke. I would literally hide my card. Hey, policeman, where's your card? Oh,
Don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. I ain't got it with me right now. Well, the teacher just gave it to us.
Nah,
I
that's
lost it. But you're right. Because I wanted to fit in.
Right.
Nah, so Jalen, you were saying something earlier about Matthew. You want me to pull that up?
Matthew 10 and 8, yeah.
Yeah, can we pull up the slide? You was touching on this one?
Yeah, so I think this scripture refers to the fear of God overruling your fear of a man. And so, you may be faced with a consequence or just in a situation where somebody can beat you up, somebody can kill you, being persecuted from a man. But this scripture for me is just saying, a human probably can take your life, your earthly, your worldly body, but that's not where the fear ends. You may be scared in that moment, but the real fear is knowing that when I die, when I leave this earth, my spirit is going to be judged. And my Father in heaven, who is also the creator and the destroyer of everything, can destroy me in hell or give me life in heaven. So I think when I think about life after death, when I think about eternity, that gives me a lot of fear in itself, because to be somewhere forever, that's that concept of thinking is just it's a scary. I
That's real.
remember I learned about eternity when I was 13 years old, and I used to have nightmares about it. Like, man, what you mean to tell me I can be in hell or heaven for eternity, and that's forever. It's timeless. It's no time zone. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like the Bible say, renewing of the mind, transformance of the mind, and once you come to the knowledge and the truth of the word, the fear comes because you believe in God so much, and you believe in His word. You believe in this is what can happen if
Yeah.
I don't listen, if I don't live the way He's telling me to live. This can happen.
Yeah.
And so for me, that fear, hunts me day in, day out. But it's not until, because the word also says to live in truth is to live in love. So once you live in love, it says, don't be ashamed of yourself or be afraid when Jesus comes back. Because when He comes back, you know that you live this life in truth and love.
Right.
There's nothing for you to be afraid of.
Right.
So I think it's a balance there.
Yeah, I would say, I think the problem for me, because I feel like my encounter with Jesus was not too long ago, right? There was once upon a time when I was in the world and had no fear, right? Just no fear whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I still slip, I still fall. I'm still striving to be the best person I can be in the eyes of God. But I think the fear came with the knowledge of God. Right? Like that relationship with Him. I didn't know Him, and so it was like, afraid of what, right? And I think there's so many people who are like, afraid of what? Hell ain't real.
Hell ain't real,
You
right.
know,
Yep.
why do any of that? So I wanted to bring up a scripture that was really important for me, that kind of helped jet set my understanding and kind of transform my mind. I feel like there's some scriptures that when you read them, you just kind of like that meme where that boy like this, and you just like, whoa, what just happened?
Right.
And so, Whitney, if you could pull up slide. So, Proverb 1:7 says that knowledge begins with fear and respect for the Lord, but stubborn fools hate wisdom and refuse to learn. And so, as we know, that was Solomon,
Crazy.
right?
Yep.
But then his father in Psalms, and I believe this is King David. I could be wrong though, but the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All who follow His precepts have good understanding. To Him belongs eternal praise. Right. And so hearing that, it's just like, okay, I thought I was smart, but if you don't fear the Lord and you don't understand what God has done for you on this earth, if you don't understand that He is the creator of everything, right? If you don't understand His presence in everything that you do, and you really kind of running out here like a fool. And
I kind of got a question for everybody.
yeah,
Because when I came up, right, talking about the fear of the Lord, I was never really taught anything about the fear of the Lord, right? So if you ask me what fear of the Lord meant, I was just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm being real. That's how I grew up. Right?
yeah,
But because of the circumstances I would find myself in a lot, I felt like times when I thought I'm going down for good, I'm going out for the count, but then I came out on top, and I knew that it wasn't because I was so great that I came out on top,
right,
but I knew that it was God watching over me, right? So I came up, and I was never had experienced fear of God, but I was always drawn to God because I felt that was my source of power, that was my source of protection, that was my source of everything that I could do, right?
yeah,
And so a lot of times I would be in a situation where, I was a little scared, or sometimes I was a lot scared. But what drove me forward and made me move forward was that not so much that I feared God, but that I knew that He had my back.
yeah. I think people look at fear the wrong way.
So how does fear fit into that type of scenario?
Well, I know you was finna.
Go
Well,
ahead.
see, like, it's funny because, like, I've been going to church, like, since a kid, but I never knew nothing but Jesus died for my sins. And I didn't even know what sins mean. Like, I used to go to church as a kid. I was like, what is sins? I don't know what sins is. I just know Jesus died for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe, like, in the brain development, and like they say, your brain ain't fully developed till you, 25?
Yeah.
So, like,
For men.
yeah. So, like, I'd say from 7 to about 8th grade, I was going to church heavily. High school, stopped going. You know what I'm saying? High school, college, And so, but I always had a concept of God, you know what I'm saying? But I never really knew, like,
Right.
so I'm gonna fast forward. So I really got into the Bible really during COVID. I thought COVID was the rapture. And I would you call that fear? Because I remember my grandma and granddad used to always say, "Don't get left behind." The rapture.
Well, one
So
question.
I think so.
Could you call it fear if you look at fear in terms of respect?
Yeah.
All right.
yeah,
I think that's the way to look at it. Fear,
It's
reverence.
deeper than respect.
Right. So it's even deeper than
I think it's deeper than respect because I can't remember the scripture, but
But how do you go deeper than respect?
because so for me, you know, we talking about a God that we can only imagine of seeing, and that's being described in the Bible. And so John had an encounter with Jesus, right? I think this was Revelation. I could be wrong, but he had an encounter with Jesus, and Jesus had eyes, flaming fire, voice of many waters. His body was burning hot, hotter than the sun. And so John was scared. John was so frightened. He fell down. He didn't even want to look at it, like he was so scared. And Jesus said, you know, it's nothing to fear. You know, so for me, when I think about that, when I think about in terms of this world, it's a sinful world, which is why we have all these natural disasters. So we're living in a world where a God, we can't even fathom. His thoughts aren't our thoughts.
yeah.
His ways aren't our ways. So we can't even. If a monster was in front of you, you know, if you watch a horror movie or a scary movie or something like the Avengers, right? You see Thor, Superman, you're gonna be amazed. What? Right? But it's a movie. But look at the characters and how they reacted to these beings.
Yeah.
But they got these characters from the Bible. They got all this imagination and creation from who they would think God is.
Right.
So when I think about God, yeah, let's respect him. But to fear him is to fear his nature, to fear something we can't even understand.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like we talking about a God that can be like, he can think, and it's all like, for me, I think about him.
So in other words, you're
He's
saying
that real to me.
You're saying that now it goes beyond respect in terms of there's nothing more powerful than what he is.
Yeah, I mean, we can't even imagine because everything we see is what he made built for us to see in this realm.
In this realm,
we
right.
don't know how
His creation and his
Outside
imagination
of-
of hell
yeah.
or heaven is like that.
Well, I got another question for you guys then. Let's put that fear of God to practical use in everyday life, right? 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
we focus, life in focus, right? So let's bring this back and let's say, okay, now the first thing I always thought about is my daughters. I got daughters, right? And the first thing I would see, I wish I knew this, but I know now. I wish I knew it when they were coming up, and I would told them, if the man don't have the fear of God in him, if he don't fear God, don't give him the time of day. Just keep on walking.
Right.
Now, what do you say about something like that? How does
Well,
that?
why'd you say that?
Why would I say that now?
Why did you say that?
I mean, I didn't say that at the time.
Oh, okay.
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 But now later on, I started making those views a little bit more plain. And I know my oldest daughter, for the longest, she wouldn't even introduce me to her boyfriend because she was afraid that he didn't stand up biblically, right?
Right.
Because she started to know that I got that nature. I wanted her to marry a Christian. To me that became very important because a godly man, I don't have to worry about him beating on her.
Right.
I don't have to worry about him cussing her out.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about him walking out the door on her. I see him as a godly man, a man who fears God, would take on the nature of Christ.
Yeah.
Who is a servant leader? Because when his disciples kept talking about who's the greatest, what did he say? Who's the servant?
Right.
That's the greatest. So
Most meek and humble.
so think about it in terms of what would you tell your daughters to look for in a guy? Would you tell her to look for a man who's godly and who's fearful of God?
Yeah.
And if she said, well, what do you mean by being a God-fearing man? What does that mean? So how would you explain that to her? Who wants?
I will.
Go ahead.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
I'll tell. So if I had a daughter, I would tell her, look at his character. Look at the character of a man. Look at his character, which ties into is he a God? Does he have morals? Is he a God-fearing guy?